Making your own takedown bow, part 4, putting it all together.
So here's a riser we made earlier. We made the limbs as well, and now we're going to attach them to each other. So we've got about 70 mil here for the limb to attach to the riser, 70 mil on each side. So I'm going to put a hole in about 20 mil from there and 20 mil in from there. Now, in order to make sure that those holes are properly centered and perpendicular, I've got a piece of timber here which is the same thickness, so I can line it up nicely, and I'm going to drill myself the correct diameter hole, 20 mil in, and then the right distance further on, so I have 20 mil and 20 mil. I'm going to drill those holes in this piece of hardwood on my drill press first, and then I'm going to attach this and use it as a guide, or a template, if you can call it that, so that I make sure that my holes are in the correct place and that they're perpendicular to this. And the perpendicular is what the drill press is going to give me, two holes that are perpendicular to these faces, and if I hold that up against there and I drill through with a hand drill, I'm going to get them just right. The reason I do that is because then if one of my limbs fails or cracks, or I want to put a more powerful limb on, I can use the same riser. The holes will be in a consistent position, and I can fit different limbs to the same riser. So you might be thinking, well, why does he use this guide, want to make this guide, when he can just put the riser in the drill press and just drill them straight up? But the thing is, as you can see, the riser isn't going to sit nicely for me. It's obviously been shaped in a particular way to be the best it can be for the bow, and I can't be fiddling around trying to level this up. So it's just easier and more accurate to do it this way. So I've lined it all up nicely, so that it's going to drill the hole in the right place, and we can just get this set up, and then we can drill the hole. Now I'm using a 6mm drill bits because I'm going to use M6 bolts to hold the limbs onto the riser. I'll just do the other hole and we'll be ready to go. Right, so there are my two holes, nicely on the center line, drilled through. They're perpendicular, and they will be my guide to make sure that I drill nice and straight, because it's just not possible to do that perfectly freehand. Right, so there's my my guide. I put it in my vise. My riser is down here. This is lined up against the end of the riser, and it's hard up touching the riser there. Right, got the 6mm drill bit on the hand drill. Just going to let the drill bit follow the hole, and we'll just go and just nice and easy. And the other one. So obviously it's important for these two surfaces to be hard up against each other so that you do get the holes perpendicular, and I'm doing this on the face that is going to receive the limb, because that's the face that I've ensured that I cut flat so that it sits nice and flat against the limb. This is the back end. I don't want to be trying to drill the perpendicular hole from this back end side. It's time to make some little grooves for our bowstring. So I do that about 30mm in from the end. If you do it too close to the end, the pieces on the side here tend to crack off. I do this with a drill, a small drill hole just on the edge here. Then I open it up with a saw, and then I just smooth it out with a file. The file I use is a round one, which is normally used to sharpen chainsaws. Okay, there are my two holes. We'll get to the saw. Just cleaning out the edge of the hole. That will do. Do the same on the other side, and we'll put a string on it. So there's our finished bow. Got the riser, the two limbs we made, and we've made some recurve into, attached. Let's see how it shoots. There you go.
So to measure the poundage of this bow that we've just made, I've just got a little hook on the back of my shed door, and I know that my draw length is about 780-ish, and so if you come down here, I've made a mark on the door at about 780. And what I'll do is I'll just add some weights and see what weight we get to when we get to the draw length, and that'll be the draw weight of the bow. So I've got 15 kilos on there now, and I'm still not quite there. 17.5 kilos. Almost at my draw length. So that was 17.5 kilos, about 38.5 pounds of draw weight at that point. So it's probably about a 40-pound bow if you put a little bit of extra weight on and took it to the muffle draw length. So this is the bow that gave us about 40 pounds. With any bow made of natural material, you can see here we've got a couple of little cracks. It's possible that you are going to get some imperfections in the timber, and that will affect the draw weight of your bow, how the limb bends, and so on and so forth. So from 12mm down 1/2 mil every about 100 millimeters across, so we end up from 12 down to about 7.5. that gives us about 40 pounds. If we wanted to make a slightly more powerful bow or more robust bow, we could start at say 13 millimeters and go down to maybe 8.5 millimeters. Of course, you can do all sorts of other things with your bow and your riser. I've sometimes recessed the bolts on the back of the riser. We like to do little bits of art. There's just a little deer, head of a wolf, paw, things that are meaningful to you perhaps.